Hello, everybody. How are you? Good, good. I don't want to talk a lot now because we don't have much time. We have to discuss a very interesting topic, and it's about up late or attacking early, facing the next generation competition. And we are talking about this topic because when you're looking on the market, it's very disruptive in these days. For example, a computer manufacturer is changing or has changed how we are using we are consuming music, or a web shop has also changed the way how we are purchasing IT resources today. And for this reason, internet-based CEOs like Raphael or others have to deal with it, and they should be awake all the time to see what's happening out there. And I have some interesting CEOs here from Germany, and also a very interesting guy from the US you already know. And I would like to talk to them about this, with them about this topic. And okay, Raphael is already on the stage. And please welcome Wilfried Beck from ePages. Hi. Christian Böing from Strato. Hi. And Aral, come on. Okay. Okay, thank you for joining me. You're all CEOs of companies with a focus on the internet economy, and you have to deal with it with potential attacks on your basically established business model. And Christian, we talked already a little bit about what you are doing, and you told me that it's a big fun to run your business because it's you're very.
I need a microphone.
Can we have a microphone, please?
Doesn't matter. They're both number one.
I think we're all on, right?
Yeah, we're on.
I learned I have to hold it like this.
Yes, you learned that from Stein, right?
And Christian, you told me that it's a big fun to run a Strato these days because you're very successful. But let me ask this question for how long? Because the world is disruptive, and also companies like AWS, for example, you have Google, you have also Microsoft, which is actually an established company, but they also changed their business model. What do you see? What is maybe a potential threat for you, for Strato, the next years?
First of all, I have to say that threats are always everywhere. And I remember times when people told me hosting is dead because of Facebook. Nobody needs a private website. And well, I looked on our gross orders and I see people buying our websites, and I don't understand it. And it's the same with our dedicated service. It's the same with our virtual service. There are, of course, new competitors in the market, and they're facing us, and they're new competitors, and they're very aggressive. But we have to change as well. And we're not working in the old environment and in the old business, but we're in the new economy. So we have to be fast and adapt fast, learn fast, and that's our challenge every day. So I'm not wondering if there are new competitors entering the German market, for example, or Amazon becomes bigger and bigger from week to week. Yeah. It doesn't matter, it's just normal.
Okay. I will come back to you later. Wilfried, you are running a business who is developing e-commerce solutions, and you're also very successful. And what do you see for potential attacks which maybe can come to your company? What do you see?
Attacks are coming from numerous sides. I mean, I'm sort of paranoid about a lot of things, and I think that's what's driving us forward. So, on the one side, it could be that we're missing a technology trend or a social trend. Right now, we're very much focusing on mobile and touch and all that. So Christian already mentioned Facebook. 5 years ago, if you would have asked me, what are we working on? And I would have said Facebook integration, because we think it has a huge impact on e-commerce. Turned out not to. And so you can be very, very wrong in your decisions on a strategy side, on a technology side. What you do, what you tell your teams and your developers and your customers. So I think that's my biggest concern, that we're doing the right things and that we're getting down to earth with our customer base. What are they really doing, and are they adopting mobile, and how fast, and what are they doing with it? And then talking to my developers, how can I find the best developers to do it? And I think that's the biggest threat for me right now, that I find enough developers, and I find the right skills in the market to do what I want to do, which is completely mobile and completely touch-based commerce, which I think is the future. And I hope I'm not as wrong as I was on Facebook, but I think all the data proves me to be right on this one.
So actually your survival strategy today is finding the right people to develop yourself or to grow actually, right?
Yeah, that is right now my biggest challenge.
Okay. Come back to Christian again. I had this discussion with my colleague 2 days ago, and we talked about the German market and why, for example, a lot of people are using Google or other American companies. And we also discussed the companies who are using infrastructure solutions. And I think you are good, someone who can answer these questions to me, because you are having infrastructure, and you need infrastructure or infrastructure components. And when we are looking, this is only one example. When we are looking on the markets, there are actually only Cisco, Juniper on the US side, so you are dealing with the NSA, or you have Huawei and you are dealing with the Chinese agencies. And here in Europe you have Ericsson or Alcatel-Lucent. But what is in Germany? And we came to the conclusion that it's basically that we have a good industry in Germany, but when it comes to IT, we have a little or more bigger problem. Yeah? Do you agree? What do you think?
Well, the good thing is that driving hosting business successfully is not about building the IT in behind or building the computers. We're just placing them together in the right way, and we're operating them. So we don't need them to be successful. So
well, but you need Cisco router, for example. You need router and you need switches. And do you see that there a problem, or do you think that it is a good idea for example, German company to take money in their hands to build infrastructure out of Germany and to give you guys opportunities to also use German technologies instead of American or Chinese technologies?
If it comes to, for example, the routers, we of course work with Cisco there. We have the Cisco routers, and we try those one who are the best, and because our customers are asking for the best solution, and we're looking for the most efficient solution. And there it really doesn't matter where it comes from. We just take the best solution. The only thing we have to care about is that our data center is protected from any attacks from anywhere in the world. But I think that has nothing to do with the routers we're using.
Okay. Raphael, when you are an internet CEO definitely, but you are only developing software, and your business is to find partnerships. So to find, for example, Strato or any other hosting provider. How do you see this impact of ecosystems and partnerships for the competition in general? Also for you, but also for the other guys.
You mean, how do I see my impact? Or
yeah. No, the impact of partnerships in general, but also the ecosystems around.
Well, that's probably an answer to your original question. I mean, we are a German company, so there is some cool German technology companies around. So is Wilfried's company. You are right on the hardware side, and it's kind of interesting that we don't have, as an engineering country, that we don't have a bigger footprint. I disagree with Christian that it's not a problem to run Cisco routers, because another Christian over here may disagree. He's the Net Cologne Christian, and they actually think that the attack vector came, probably through a Cisco router that has a backdoor on that. So, there is something to it to at least think of it, and I think it will become a quality seal to enhance sort of the quality of your services and thus create more trust and so forth to differentiate in the market. So, we are striving to do that. This is why 21 companies are supporting this event, because that's an ecosystem of partners. right, that create great solutions. And maybe in the near future we have a great phone from Aral, you know, as part of the ecosystem that we can promote and that can be trusted, right? Maybe we'll have you know, AVM step up a little bit and build also enterprise scale routers for, or we have software-defined routing that sort of solves that problem too. So I strongly believe that building out an ecosystem, you know, is a sort of a self-feeding virtuous circle that drives up business. And I'm in the middle of this, right? I want this to happen.
Right, and you are focusing on openness. Christian, how important is openness for you, for your partners, or to say, would you also say, okay, well, I don't care much about it, I also would like to take, for example, Microsoft Office, because the user base is much bigger, there are more opportunities? From a business point of view, of course.
So from a business point of view, it's very easy. Or from a hoster point of view, our USP is to have a data center and to build customer relationships. We own our customers, and customers ask for the best solutions. And the time where all the hosters did the things on their own, well, that time is gone, because and we changed our strategy dramatically in the last years. So when I joined, for example, we had our own build site builder software, and we went to a partner. And with ePages, for example, we are working for more than 10 years together. It can't be that a hoster was really focusing on getting customers in and doing the right marketing and driving driving data centers. That we're concentrating on things like integrating DHL and these kind of things. It's not our core route, what we really can do. Our core competence is being a hoster and not developing the real detailed things you need if you, for example, build a shop software like ePages is doing.
But do you see a trend that openness is part of a new business model, for example? That openness is what Open-Xchange is, for example, doing, that it's a core for the business in the future?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, or we saw it all today with the, for example, with the video chat. This is something I was searching for years to make my work easier. The only thing you could do in the past is to buy software that the others also have and have to install. But if it's new, if it's open, if everybody can use it, it's a new way of working together there. So I feel that both a company has to be more open to work with partners, and the companies providing solutions have to be more open in being compatible to each other.
Yeah. I'm asking this question because when you're taking a look on the market, it shows that, for example, the very, very successful companies, let's take an Apple, let's take an Amazon Web Services in the cloud industry, or in Google or in Microsoft, have closed ecosystems. They are not open. Even if Microsoft said, yeah, we are open, and they are right, they're having the biggest open source project somehow, but they are closed. And also SAP is basically closed. So this is why I'm asking this question, because I see also a lot of potential in closed systems. And I think we had this last year, yeah? This was in part of your keynote.
I mean, I don't think success, is open or closed at all. It just depends on what kind of business model you have. And I actually would ask Aral of his opinion regarding this, because, closed monopolies, and monopoly is always better in generating money, if you control what you do, right? Is it better? Probably not, right? Aral, what's your take on that?
Before I answer your question, actually, I just noticed that we've been sitting here for about 10, 15 minutes, and we're all white guys. And this is the CEO couch, right? So that's the merit for being here. So I just wanted to ask the audience: are there any female CEOs in the audience today? There's
Two.
Two.
There are two female CEOs. I think one of the things that I wanted to raise about openness, about the challenge that we face, was about diversity, and I feel very uncomfortable sitting here right now. So if I may, no, you're fine, you're fine. If I may, if it's all right with you, may I invite one of those two CEOs to take my place, because I think that this panel will benefit more from your input than mine right now. Can I invite one of you to take my place here on the panel, please? Yeah? Thank you.
Here.
No, we don't need it. We have to change.
Hi.
Hi, Christiane. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Christian.
So please introduce yourself. 1, 2 sentences.
Yo, that's heavy. I have to come to myself. So, I'm Christiane Edler from C Quadrat. We have met before on CeBIT. You know my colleague, Marcel Donges. Okay, sorry. Did you understand what I said, or should I repeat? It's okay? It's enough? Or what should I say more? I've worked before as an infrastructure architect for 10 years. We founded with 3 other people a hosting company. We have merged with Hostway. That is also a partner here. So we are really familiar with data center and web hosting.
Okay, it's interesting. So you are basically an architect, huh?
Yeah,
A
for
female
sure.
architect.
Yeah.
You don't see that much in the IT industry. I have to say. Huh? And how do you have to deal with it? Do you see a problem as a female in this very male industry?
It's quite hard to be a woman in the IT, that's right. And also to get the same stand as a man. It's quite hard, but it's have become easier with the age and also with the professionality. And also with bigger projects. It's normally for me to work now in the IT. It's okay.
Okay. Good. So Aral, you really killed me, yeah? Thank you.
You
That's
too?
why we have him, right?
Okay. I have to change a little bit, so I will come back to you back to you later. He really killed me. Okay. We were at this point openness, and I would now focus more on this type of business model. And Wilfried and I yesterday discussed it already a little bit. And when it comes, for example, to this topic of trust, and we already heard it from Aral this morning that that Mark Zuckerberg said, okay, the people trust me, these dumb heirs. Yeah? And the question is, could trust work as a business model? This means that when you are really able to build trust with your customer base, do you really think that they will, for example, believe you? Will they be? Would they pay, for example, more when we are also thinking about Google is giving everything out for free or mostly out for free? So would they come to you because they trust you more instead of a player like Google or any other American or also European company?
I think trust has many different facets. So, I mean, you can trust me that I'm careful with your data, but you can also trust me that I'm not selling my company to Google or to anybody else. That I will continue to do these things we've done for years. You can trust me that we're very careful about every single customer, and that we would don't change our business model. A lot of things. Yeah. So, what does trust mean? And we have different customers of different sizes. So when I work with 1&1 or Strato, I have different requirements from them regarding trust, as I have maybe from a smaller hosting provider, and I look at it very differently. When I'm working with Strato or 1&1, any flaw in our software product, if somebody would break into our database and steal credit cards or user data for a big brand like 1&1 and Strato, it would be a huge impact because it damages the whole brand. And for a smaller provider, it's completely different. Also it would of course be a huge damage, but it would not carry on as much as it does with 1&1 and Strato. So for me, I'm working on many different fronts, which is why I have to, treat every customer differently. We cannot work with like very tiny, small providers because they have different requirements. Talking maybe to a smaller group of their customers, they know intimately, and so you have a certain market where you stand for certain things, for quality, for trust, and a few things. So you can trust, for instance, ePages, that we're working very closely with the hosting industry, talking about the ecosystem that we have, that we're building here. We all see each other at 4 or 5 different events around the year, and so we are probably together. We are a very effective ecosystem. None of us would be successful without the rest of the ecosystem, and so I think you can trust my company to do exactly this, to support hosting providers. So that's why just a few examples of what does trust mean to, and it comes in many different facets.
Do you want to?
First of all, I have to say, trust is really the basis of what we do, because our customers are trusting us in everything we're doing, because we're managing their data, we're managing they're running their systems in our ecosystem, and they trust us that we're doing it in the right way. So without trust, no customer will ever buy a product from us. Absolutely. And to give you a few examples, of course, most of the letters I get from customers is they're claiming about things, but 50% of the things they're claiming about is about we shut down a system for them because we detected malware or whatever. So, and they think, well, what did you do? First of all, you did something we didn't want you to do. They don't understand that they were the problem because they did something wrong and installed something on their systems, and we were only operating the system, nothing else. And they trust us so much that they think we're gonna manage everything for them. And even when we're shutting down things because they're doing really bad things with our infrastructure, with their infrastructure, they think we are responsible for it. And so this shows trust starts immediately when they come to us and being our customers. And of course, they trust us in terms of data privacy. This is one thing I have to mention in addition. When all the things rose with the NSA and these kind of things, we thought, of course, wow, we're a German-based company. We run our data centers only in Germany. Probably all our customers, or probably more customers, will come to us and ask for a secure solution because we're German-based. In fact, I didn't see that effect.
Interesting. But what does this mean for the psychology for German customers, for example, or for basically customers? Basically, they don't care about it, right? That the government or other companies are spying on them, right? Or?
If I ask our customers, trust is always a thing that is, whatever analysis and market research you're doing is a very important thing for a customer. If our customers do not trust us, we're in big trouble. And they just see this as a normal thing. And if people, for example, store their files on our online storage, on our high drive product, they just trust us that we're really protecting all the things. If you're offering a product like a site builder and you have a shop system in it, like a widget, they trust you that you're doing right, that everything is protected, and you have to care about it.
Yeah, that's true. Raphael, this morning, Aral he stressed this topic of free very, very hard, I have to say. And but actually, he left one question open, and the question is how to change this topic. This means because Google is one of the reasons why everything is free. So the customers are now I'm getting it for free, but they don't know what they actually are giving out. And but how would you? This is of course more about end customers and not about business customers, because business customers pay for things. Yeah, they want to pay. But when you are coming to the end customers, do you think it is possible to change their minds to say, okay, we don't want to use free Google services, but we would go to a hosting provider who's hosting Open-Xchange and with the same, or basically the same services Google is actually giving for us, but we would pay for it?
Well, we see actually people thinking more about the topic, but like Christian said, we don't see a wave of customers coming in because of that yet. Because I think the awareness of these things are increasing. And the examples I gave this morning with the lawyers and things like that, which are of course a little more sensitive groups, they are already coming. But number two, and I think Aral gave an answer to that question, we have to build better products. Right? We have to be compelling. The stuff has to be cool. It has to be fun to use.
This is actually what I've started to talk about, right? So that it's not only infrastructure, it's only services. Yeah, and
But Christian will be buying German routers if they are, cheaper, better, faster, what have you, right? So that's his proposition. So, and by providing these, by somebody supplying that to the market, things will happen and change will happen. And this is what Aral set out to do with the phone that he's building. That's what we set out to do with AppSuite that we're building and all the additional things that we're adding to it. We just have to create compelling tools to create compelling solutions in our market, and then things will happen with the additional benefit then for people of the trust they can put into these platforms that we are providing.
Just one additional remark. I think we will never, or we won't change the opinions of customers of what is right or what is wrong. If customers like freemium models and they choose free things, well, I will never change them in their opinions. But I have the same opinion that you have. If the freemium product from Google is that good, well, we have to have a better product or a more secure product or something that has a USP. If there is no USP, we shouldn't offer that product to the market.
Sure. Okay. When I'm right, Secret is something with data storage, right?
Not real. We developed a product, what we call My Data Under My Control. It's a product to secure your own data, and we published this 3 years ago, and now it's the time that we have a prototype thing so that you can get your sovereignty for your own data.
Okay.
So
basically the question is nonetheless, but I also asked them, how important is it to own the data?
for me, it's quite important. It's a necessary thing I need because I like security, and for me, it's the biggest thing.
Okay. Easy question, why?
When you came from a hosting side, we always have clients which have not good maintained systems, and so you always have to go with updates and things like this that they are secure. We also have had routers from Cisco or from different other, and we know that there were backdoors and it's not quite nice. So if you are if you have a backdoor, you not feel really secure, but you have also not quite an alternative. So we have always used Debian and things like this that we can also maintain. And there's also a big group. Peter Ganten was here, and the OSBA is where we can try and work on this aim. So open source for me is a way to get a better security worldwide. And not only for myself, also for countries and for governments, and also for companies and things like this.
Okay, but why do you think the ordinary people don't care about data ownership? How can we? As Anna found this. Sorry, I find this picture very nice. How can we save all the rats out there, the stupid users? Let's be honest.
Mostly it's a problem of usability, and I'm pretty sure if you use GNU, PGP or things like this, it's quite complicated to install. So the thing is, what we should face is the usability of the software that's easy for the user and which kind of device to fix this problem. And I'm pretty sure then they will use it if they do not have to understand what's behind.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more.
Raphael, how could we save the rats?
Well, not by telling them that they are rats, right? I mean, Aral did that very nicely today. I guess they would disagree with that. Again, it goes back to we need to build the secure solutions. I totally agree to the principles. I totally agree to the user experience that we need to deliver, the simplicity in usage we need to deliver. This comparison of why is nobody using PGP? I mean, our answer is OXGuard, right? Just make it simple, and then everybody will be using it. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's hard to make simple stuff, right? So you have to create a great user experience so that people will want to use your stuff over the other stuff. I don't think that most of the people really worry about these things that we worry about, but we are from the industry, right? We should be worrying, right? And we should be building these things. So when they wake up, eventually we can say, no, that's covered. You know, we've been dealing with that all the time. But the only way to get them out of their red cage is to give them better stuff that they use instead of the other things.
Okay, so you think it's about convenience?
Absolutely.
Basically.
Everybody's lazy, right? And everybody loves free. I think Aral sort of made us all become aware of that,
Yeah.
right?
Wilfried, you are more the easygoing guy, I have to say. Yeah? When it comes to data, for example, he has a lot of houses. He told me yesterday, and he has everything is connected to a thermo. What is it? Thermostatus? No, what is it in English? I forgot. Thermo.
Yeah, I have everyone. I don't have so many houses. But let me call it that. I have some investment in real estate. Okay, so but I control every one of them with a weather station that many of you might know, NetAtmo, which is a very nice device from a French company, very Apple-like, and you can control it from your smartphone or your tablet. So awesome device, and so you can look at that and see the temperature and lots of other data around your house, outside temperature, you can noise level, lots of things, air quality and so on. So if I would tell everybody in these houses that I can see how much they put up the heating or how much noise they generate, they would probably be scared. But these devices are all around us. So if you look at their website, you can see it's a really nice crowd device where you can see the world weather, sort of, real world weather that you can, I could go in now and see what's the temperature in, somewhere in the middle of France or wherever I want to go next day and see the real weather that's there, because there are hundred thousands of those devices worldwide. And so the owners of these devices are supplying the data for other users to be used. And I think it's a really nice, convenient device. But then if you look into data protection, not so sure that everybody wants to know what's possible there. And I don't think that the government knows what's possible there. But what's the way forward? Should we have more control over those devices, that they can do less? Yeah? Or what are the users like me, what do we want? And I think there was a very interesting slide from Aral this morning who said, less features, more user experience. So it's not about features anymore, it's about user experience. But some of the user experience you only get through really good data. And so we need data. It's not about not collecting data. It's about who do you put the data in whose hands do you put the data, and how do people, what do they do with it? How responsible are they with that data? And like we as a company, we have probably access to, I think we have 5 million shoppers just in Germany in the databases that we provide for some of our partners like 1&1 and Strato, for others in our own data center. 5 million shoppers. We can see what their preferences are. But would I ever go in and look at an individual one? I guess I could somehow,
Sure.
but I don't. So I think people can trust companies like us that we don't do that.
So it's about
it's not the question, can you do the business we're doing without collecting data? I don't think you can. You cannot provide the level of user experience without using the data you have. It's about who do you trust to use the data in a more sensible way
That's true.
than Google and Facebook might be doing.
Yeah, but in the end, this use case you described with the solution you're using is actually only possible if someone is hosting everything and is storing everything and is analyzing it and then provides it again. So basically, we have to trust a company or someone who's actually working with this data, right?
But there's a couple of things you can look at a company, if a company is trustable or not. Maybe another good example of the difference between collecting data and the business models that we heard about from Aral is, for example, anti-spam protection for mails. So every email gets read when it comes into your mail server to check for spam. And once the spam detection is over, that information gets dropped. But of course, a spam database is built. So if spam is detected, that information, a fingerprint of that email is stored in a database somewhere else. so that all the new same spam mail can be detected more easily, right? So now you could say, okay, everybody is reading every email. Yes. But the big difference is that that information is specifically used for a service that is totally made transparent. Right? By saying, you know, spam protection, you want that yes, no? If no, good luck, right? If yes, then here's what we do. And we do this with these tools. And here are the tools, and if they're open source, even better, you can even look at the source code, right, and see what this stuff is doing.
So it's more about a code of conduct of the company, basically, yeah? Because when you are buying something at Amazon, you also get some very nice ideas what you also can buy, which
right?
perfectly matches actually, yeah. And
Awesome.
so it's actually we are talking about a code of conduct, right?
Yes, and goes back to trust, right? So Wilfried says, I can be trusted because that's a normal business. I charge Strato for my services. Strato charges the customers for the services. We don't need a hidden business model, so we're honest guys, right? So this is a trusted service chain that we're having. So I have no problem with Strato reading my email for filtering for spam because I know it's all Christian is doing with my email, and that's it, and I want him to do it. So it's a chain of trust. It's like the whole food seal, right? You know, oh, this car was actually standing on a lawn, and it had more than 100 square meters or so, blah, 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 because the rules of conduct are defined, right? And when I buy this, I have to trust the supplier that they really did. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's crooks in that business. And there's crooks in our business too. But that's a normal market dynamics that will uncover these things. And of course, you can make it better and better and better, you know, to the ultimate sort of openness and transparency, you know, that we were discussing before.
It's true. Sorry, I forgot your name. Christian, sorry. You agreed with, I saw it, that you agreed with Wilfried. You always said, yeah, this is right. How do you see this Internet of Things topic? You know, this data all around, and I'm not a fan, but I'm also have these, I measure myself here with a Polar from, with a loop from Polar, so I know what I'm doing all the day, and also Polar is knowing that. But how do you think, how important is this topic, or do you think it's a threat? Is it dangerous? What is your opinion on that?
Question of trust is always difficult to. I'm not sure if a code of conduct is the only thing we need. I think we need processes from certifications, things like that we can really trust in. So only trust on which basis? That's a question.
Right.
So that depends.
But what do you think? How would you create trust if you are building those kind of business models, for example?
In business ethics, there are principles called Werte management, where you have for the whole company, the whole process, a roadmap how to build it in your company and how to communicate this on web pages and marketing and whatever. So there are models in the world where you can use it, but nobody did because they did not see the necessity in this. So I'm pretty sure it becomes a topic over the next years. And we have all this kind of stuff. We have all the organizations. When we have a look in Germany, we have the Deutsche Netzwerk für Wirtschaftsethik, which has such things in mind. So everything is there. We have to use it. Otherwise, we can't change anything.
Okay, so we have to concentrate basically the companies who are delivering the services or these devices. You know.
For sure.
Yeah. Christian, do you think that it's also a point of where the data is stored? For example, when it is an IoT company from Germany which stores the data at Strato, for example, do you think it's more trustful for us Germans, but also for Europeans, instead of using a Google Nest or something different?
So the first thing we have to look at is the German data protection law, which is really very restrictive in all kind of things, and that's the reason why we have a really very, very distinctive role concept where everything is defined, what kind of persons has access to what kind of data, and we always see what our persons, even our staff, did with kind of data. We have to log every access they have to data, so we really see if there is something going wrong with the private data of our customers. So, for example, we have an online storage called HiDrive, and there are petabytes from data in it. And of course, we could have access to this. It's physical, it's just storage. We could go there and have access to it. But it is, of course, organized that nobody has access to it, and only a few people, and only if some rules are there, and the customer is really willing that we're looking at his data. So I think we're managing these kind of things, and that's the only thing I'm saying. Our customers, if they buy our products, they think it is really, really trustful what we're doing, and we're not playing with their data. But, well, if you ask me, would I store all my private things on Google? No, never. Would I install all the things, even my private data on high drive? Yes, everything that I have in terms of private data is on high drive.
Well, okay, because you're the CEO of Strato.
Well, but trust me,
a little bit different.
Probably it would be funny for my employees to look at my photos.
Yeah, this is true too, right? Yeah. Okay. After my last topic for today is, have you heard about this topic of personal data economy? Personal data economy. Give you an example. I think everybody knows these cars Tesla, right? Tesla Model S, for example. Does anyone have it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's either an i8 or a Tesla, right? What can you do?
Okay, so there was a case where a Norwegian business guy parked his car. He
got a ticket.
He got a parking ticket,
Right.
and actually he could park there for 10 minutes.
Right.
And he wasn't in the building for less than 10 minutes. And when he came out, he got a parking ticket. And then he asked Tesla for getting the data, the information, because he said, okay, because the Tesla it's an electricity car and it's completely connected to the internet. So Tesla has actually every kind of data which you are creating during your driving. And he asked Tesla for so that he can say, okay, I'm only parked there for 5 or 6 minutes. And Tesla said no. So the data belongs to us. You cannot get it. So the question is now, you are paying, I don't know what is the price for Tesla? 100K? I don't know, 120K. So you buy a car, and then the data you are producing is actually not yours. It's not only with the Tesla. It's also when you are driving with an ordinary car, which is not so intelligent. What you are creating a mass of data when you are, for example, only using the GPS system. And the question is now, and I talked about this topic with a lawyer who is actually an expert on this, and he said, think about when you are driving with your car, and then you wanted to buy a new car, and you go to your a current car seller and said, okay, here's my USB stick. I want to have the data in my car. And then maybe he's giving this to you because you are owning it. You have produced this data, and then you go to another car seller and said, okay, here's my data. What is it worth? What do you get? What can I get from you for these data? Because when you think about that, the car manufacturers are making business with this data you are creating. They know how you are driving. They know getting much more information out of the car to produce better cars, for example. So do you think it is an interesting model to say we have this topic of personal data economy that we as a customer can sell our data to the vendors, to the manufacturers?
I guess you have to be able to own it in the first place. Right? I think it's even more true for Google and Facebook. You know, I think the picture of Aral was this avatar, this virtual self that is being created by these guys. So there's a virtual Raphael inside Google somewhere. And I'd be more interested in that virtual Raphael than I would be interested in Raphael's driving skills on an i8 or something, right? So these are even worse. So first of all, we have to deal with the data ownership issue. right? Where I should be able to go to anyone who's collecting data on me and ask him for my data to begin with. Tesla is probably an interesting example because nobody expects this from a car, but Tesla is a computer on wheels, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
But Google doesn't need wheels, right? They just have, just think of what information Google has from you. Just think of it, it's staggering. And, I would want that. So I guess we have to push for laws or law enforcement, actually, because I do think we have the laws for that already in place. The Norwegian case.
The Norwegian, they have it, right?
The Norwegian law is you have always access to all your data. Now try to enforce that, being Norway, right? Enforce that in Mountain View, California, at Google, right? Saying, 4 million Norwegians, give me all that data. It's probably not going to happen. They may not even have the capabilities to do that yet, or maybe they have them, but they don't want to show the world what they know, right? Because that might be a little scary to most people. Once that is resolved, of course, there will maybe a market for that information, and the exploitation of your own data will then be back in the hands of the people themselves. So I can imagine a data market, right, where you say, okay, I have no problem publishing my DNA or something like that. If you want access, I get $1 or so. If people want to do that, they're free to do so.
I think there are already business models for that, right? That you are giving some things out, and you are getting some pennies for it.
Absolutely. You can, for example, there is systems that harvest the e-commerce data from your email, right? And they pay you money for that information because they create a database of e-commerce data that's pretty big, because a lot of e-commerce goes through email, or actually all of it, right? So whenever ePages sends out an email, you purchase this and that to the buying customer, that information that is only inside the product now gets duplicated into email. So if you would be able to scan all inboxes for all e-commerce data that's being sent around, you have a pretty good idea of what's going on in e-commerce in the world, right? So people pay you money for that.
Okay. Wilfried and Christian, would you pay something for data? When the customer's coming, actually for you, it's interesting because you have web shops, and also for you with emails or so, or other stuff. Would you say, okay, I will pay €1 for each megabyte of data the customer's giving to me? Just an example, of course.
I think it's very well possible. I'm not saying I pay €1 for a certain amount of personal data, but I think there could be a deal that somebody lets me collect data and gets the product at a better price point or something, or gets a certain service in return. As an example, as I said before, we have this data of 5 million consumers who have bought something online, and we're not, using that yet, and we're not even setting cookies. So, but if we would, then we could be looking afterwards at, what's the preference of a certain person to pay with, or, what's his gender, or things. So we could make his shopping experience a little nicer. But then, of course, we would first have to ask Strato, our customer, then we would have to ask the merchant whether we are allowed to use the data. And maybe I could imagine that they would allow us to do it, because in return, they get something. And so that allows us to be at a very interesting point where we could maybe make them competitive with Amazon or eBay or PayPal, who has massive amounts of data that a small business doesn't have. But I could make that data maybe available to a small business if I do a deal with him. And I'm a proponent of making these deals, that it goes into both directions. So I would love to be able to give him data to make him more competitive with Amazon. So we're looking at that.
So you already have it in mind?
Yeah, we have this in mind, of course, because it's so obvious that we have so much data in our systems that it's very useful. Right now we cannot use it to the full extent like we would love to use it, because there's so much logic behind it. You could also call it common sense. Every one of us is creating data all the time, whether it's online or offline. In the offline world, you do the same. In the offline world, there's for generations, there have been people collecting data, like GfK here in Germany, that's doing analysis of shopping behavior in the high street. And they publish that, and they do that for someone. It doesn't mean that I can ask them to exclude myself out of this. They count me as well when I'm going in the high street and shopping at a physical store. So I'm I'm all for it to use the data because it brings us forward. It allows us to make big improvements on a lot of things. But then we should ask the people to participate and to, first of all, they should allow us to do it and they should know what we're doing with it. And maybe they get something in return. Maybe it's a better shopping experience, whatever.
Yeah, sure. So Christian, just an example, when there are some migration tools which are also here for email or collaboration systems. So would you pay a new customer when he's migrating his data from vendor provider XYZ to Strato, for example?
I would never pay a customer to give his private data to us because it's not worth it. We're paying all the time for getting information about customers. For example, if we're doing user experience tests, we invite customers to come to our office and and they're showing private things like using the products, and we see everything we need to have. But coming back to your Tesla example, for example, for me it is, if they're collecting data and logging all the time to get to know where the next power station has to be placed, I think they're doing a fine job. If it comes to collecting the data and getting the log files and then using them for having an individualized profile and using it for things that the customer really doesn't want to have or he's not knowing, this is ethics. I really disagree to have these kind of things. I don't want to have these data, and nobody should use this data. Even with us, when customers are visiting our website, of course we're collecting mass of data in our log files. We exactly know what kind of customers were in the buying process and these kind of things. And of course we're using things like retargeting, blah blah blah. Of course we're doing this, but it is not used to have an individualized profile in the long way. It is just we use the data and we make a better shopping experience for him. But if it is stored and used in a different way that the customer wouldn't expect, I really, this is something I would never do.
Okay, good. So we are also coming to an end now, and I would give each of you a chance to say a last sentence.
Finally.
You are fine, and nothing will happen to you. But so on the topic on how, when a customer is asking you how he should deal with his data, how he should deal with openness, and this topic 3 we had this morning, what would you advise him, Christiane?
Private is private, and you have to have a look at what you're doing. This is so if you're in the moment you're taking a photo of yourself or your wife with the iPhone, you have to know that probably if she's naked, you probably get in trouble. And this is the thing, you have to care about yourself and data privacy. It begins with you, and it begins with the individual person. So that's the main thing. You really have to take care. Okay. If it comes to the last sentence, I have to say one of the biggest things I have learned today was your sentence today in the morning when you said, my exit plan is to when the company is owned by my children. This is really the most impressive sentence I've heard today.
Right, yeah. It's true.
I would say my data should always be under my control, and I should have the possibility always to know where my data is going and what's worth it, and what I should have the decision what I made with it.
Okay. Wilfried.
Yeah, just a general thing that we heard this morning in the keynote that was very impressive. But I think we should spread the awareness. Don't have the illusion that your data is not. Or don't have the illusion that all your data is private. But on the other side, we should also not be paranoid about the data that we're leaving in the internet because not everybody is using it against you. And so when we see the NSA scandal, maybe it's true that the NSA is tracing all of us. And we could read this morning that at least in Australia, 15 people's lives were saved or seemed to be saved because somebody knew that there was attack going on. Yeah? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not paranoid about the rest of the world being evil, but I also don't have the illusion that that everybody's good.
Raphael, last one.
Well, I guess it's a responsibility of us, the industry, to protect the people that use stuff, from bad things. So when you're a car manufacturer, you try to make the car as simple as possible, and you try to make it as hard for people to kill themselves with it. Still, people kill themselves with it and kill other people with it. But if you look at the numbers from the car industry, alone in Germany, I think we went from 60,000 deaths on the road in the 70s to 3,500 today. That's a staggering number, not so bad, right? And I think we should just strive for the same things, right? That it will be harder to lose control over your data because we're creating better tools. It will be harder to use them in a way that may be wrong and may create some problems like Christian mentioned that we talked about a lot. I think this is, our duty to improve that the same way that the car industry introduced safety into cars and reducing the deaths. So it's up to us, and not so much saying, oh, everybody else is stupid, we can't help them. Yeah, because they are not experts. Come on, we are stupid in many other things too, right? Talk to a doctor, then you know how stupid you are,
Absolutely.
right? And the doctor says, oh, you're too stupid, you can die, right? That's not a good answer. So we should be, taken up on our responsibility and deliver good stuff so that people stop killing themselves in a data kind of way.
I think this is a good closing statement. Thank you. Okay, thank you for joining us, and an applause to our 4 CEOs here. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Renee.